Hello and welcome to Aspen Affairs, the public affairs show from the Aspen Chamber Resort Association. I'm your host, Debbie Braun, President and CEO of ACRA. You're watching Election 2024, Informed and Empowered, our series on this fall's election where we highlight voter resources, share key election information, and break down issues you find on your ballot. You can learn more and watch all these episodes at aspenchamber.org/elections. Today's guest is Dan Bartholomew, Airport Director of the Pitkin County Airport. As locals know, it's now a yearly occurrence that the runway has to shut down for repairs. Dan's going to give us some insight into the current state of the runway planned maintenance for the spring of 2025 and what type of shutdown could come about if ballot question 1C does not pass or does pass. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Debbie.
I'm really happy to have you aboard. Dan, I see you frequently. You're an ex officio member of the Aspen Chamber Resort Association Board of Directors. So thank you so much for all the work that you do on behalf of our community. Hey, people are talking about the runway. Have you heard about this?
It's come up a couple times, yeah.
It kind of has. It's really a very, very important issue. I hope it's not contentious. I think people are very, very curious about kind of the current state of the runway. So can you tell me when the last time it was evaluated and kind of what those results look like?
Sure. So we evaluate the runway every year.
Okay.
We have a consulting firm that specializes in airfield pavement, and they come out about this time every year to inspect the pavement. And then we also do ongoing inspections throughout the year just to make sure something doesn't change because safety is paramount at the airport. And the pavement has reached a point where it's beyond its useful life. Airfield pavement lasts 20 to 30 years typically. However, the climatic conditions up here tend to be a little harsher on pavement. We have some freeze-thaw issues. We have some soil issues underneath the runway. That's causing some additional wear and tear on that runway.
So you can't just keep repaving over the top of it?
We can't. It's gotten to the point where the issues are down full depth under the runway.
Oh, under
so those
there.
have to be addressed.
Well, you know, ACRA just did a member survey, and we actually got 125 results back, which I think is really fabulous. And when we looked at all of it, for the membership, they said safety was the number one issue out at the airport. So when you had it evaluated last, who evaluates it, and what did they say?
So our engineering firm also evaluated it.
Okay.
So we had it. We did a significant evaluation, almost like a CT scan on our runway back in 2023, showed some significant subsurface issues. What it really showed us is that we cannot fix the runway with just the overlays that we end up doing on an annual basis. It's something that we need to fully repair. So that's kind of where we need to go now is we're just maintaining the runway, band-aiding it, if you will, on an annual basis.
You know, CDOT does on our bridge like a 1 to 5, rating scale. Do you guys rate the runway?
There is something called a pavement condition index number. We don't really apply it to our runway.
Okay.
Our runway's at a point where we just need to fix it.
Got it. Well, you've already informed the board on a couple of occasions that there is going to be a shutdown for 2025 for upkeep. Have you guys figured out what those dates are going to be and what work is going to be done during that time?
Sure. We'll be doing the typical mill and overlay, targeted mill and overlay on certain spots that we're experiencing the most distress at this point, just to maintain a safe condition throughout the remainder of the year, we hope. The closure dates are going to be May 5th through 2025 through June 1st, 2025.
So if the locals are out there planning their off-season adventures, the day before it closes, we need to get out of here in May, maybe early.
Couldn't hurt.
Couldn't hurt.
And the problem is in this year, because of the runway conditions keeps deteriorating year after year.
Yeah.
We're actually this time going to be closed over Memorial Day. That's just something we can't avoid this year. So graduations, other things are going to be impacted by that.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to pay close attention to that. Tell me if if the Citizens Against Bigger Planes, that initiative, the Citizens Initiative passes, does this stop the work that you guys would do in the spring of 2025?
No, we were required by FAA regulation and our grant assurances with the FAA and federal government to maintain that runway and keep it open, operational, and safe.
Okay.
So regardless, we will have to continue this.
Okay. If ballot measure 1C, which is Pitkin County's measure, passes, it's going to set the ball rolling for an entirely renovated runway. What would the timeline be for that potentially?
Sure. So best case scenario, we still have to have a signed airport layout plan from the FAA at this point.
And just to be clear, it's been submitted to the FAA. Okay.
It's been submitted. We're just awaiting their responses to it.
Okay.
Typically, the FAA will have some comments on it, and we'll address those comments, get them back to them. Hopefully have a signed ALP in the not-too-distant future, a month or two at this point. We do have to do a written reevaluation for the environmental that was already completed in 2018.
Yep.
Because too much time has passed. So if things go right and then get into the design for runway pavement, we're looking at 2026 as the earliest possible time we could do that.
Okay. Can it be like a phased construction? Because people seem to be worried that it would be closed for 8 months. So that's pretty significant. Important, though, but significant. Are you guys looking at phasing this operation so it kind of protects some of the high seasons?
We have evaluated that. Our engineers are right now telling us that phasing really isn't a convenient way to do it, and maybe not even possible. And that's largely because the shift is so slight. We're still working in what they call the safety area of the existing runway.
Okay.
And to start getting into the safety area, that's difficult to do construction, shut down, reconstruct, shut down, reconstruct in following years. Plus the mobilization up here is difficult.
Got it. And 8 months, do you think it's going to go longer, or... I mean, if the weather gods and everyone cooperates, in 8 months, will it only be the runway that has been tackled? And then would the next phase be the terminal? Because that's really what we all agree on. I think every side agrees if you're in that terminal during high season, that has to be addressed. I actually think it's a safety hazard, too. So when you think about safety, that terminal is pretty disastrous.
Oh, true. We are hoping we can do it in 8 months. Some of the things we're planning on doing is if we do get permission to move forward in 2026, we'll hopefully stockpile materials the fall before that. So that hopefully will allow us to hit the ground running as soon as the winter breaks and we can actually get to construction. As far as the terminal goes, the FAA is pretty clear with us at this point that they want to see actual progress on the shift of that runway before they'll move forward on a terminal.
And it's important because the FAA would then fund the terminal, correct? And the airport shift, if fingers crossed?
Hopefully. We're racing against the clock right now. So there is bipartisan infrastructure law funding out there, $5 billion over 5 years, so $1 billion a year.
That's federal funding, right?
Federal funding, specifically for airport terminals. So $1 billion a year.
Across the United States?
Across the United States.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that sunsets in 2026.
Oh.
And you're required to apply for that the year before. So this time in 2025, we will have to have applied for that funding. FAA typically wants to see a shovel-ready project at that point. So, can we get through the environmental? Can we get through design by that time for a terminal and then apply for those funds for 2026? It's going to be very, very interesting on that one.
It seems like it's going to be pretty tight. Dan, what if we don't get those funds? Do we still get to upgrade the terminal, or does that come out of the enterprise, the Airport Enterprise Fund?
So it would come out of the Airport Enterprise Fund. We'd probably do what are called airport revenue bonds. Okay. So we would pledge the revenue that comes from operating that terminal, whether it's parking revenue, concession revenue, rental car revenue, landing fees, other things, to go into that terminal to pay back the bonds on that terminal.
Sure would be nice to get the grant money and not have to pay back bonds. I understand that. With an 8-month closure, what are we doing to mitigate for passengers? Like, will the airlines work to increase flights to Eagle or Grand Junction? Are we working with any planned transit to get people bused up here? I will say that the airport has been very, very generous over the years and has come to the business community, come to the hospitality community and said, we have to shut down for maintenance. Like, what's the good time to do it? So we all work together. You're not just in a silo or a tower over there making these dates up. So we really do appreciate that. I would think that there was some planning for an 8-month closure of how we're going to move people in and out of our community.
We are planning for that. We're actually hoping to do a test of it if things work out right during the month closure, because we realize, this year next year we're getting into a month closure. It might be a good test bed for some of those transportation options. What we're hoping to do is, yes, have some transportation options to get people to Grand Junction, to get them to Eagle, possibly even Denver. There might even be an option where we can pre-clear them at the Aspen Airport, where they'd be on a secure bus and they could go right to the secure side in Denver, perhaps.
Great.
So we're looking at various options on that.
Well, I think that's really great planning, and I know that there's a group of people in the tourism industry that all work together. Because a lot of times I hear things where it's like, well, why don't you talk to SkiCo, or why aren't you talking to the airport? It's like, guess what? Everybody is in a lot of meetings together working on that. What's the potential impact on the airport if the runway improvements do not go through and the current runway continues to deteriorate? I don't think that's a scare tactic. I actually think that's just what a lot of our members were asking.
No, honestly, that's just physics at this point, really.
At that point.
So even in my short tenure here, about 3 years, we've gone from just slightly under a 2-week closure to now we're looking at a 27-day closure. So you can see the exponential rate that runway is deteriorating.
Yeah.
We are required, as I mentioned previously, by our grant insurance obligations to maintain that runway in a safe and operable condition. So whether it's a month closure this year and something longer next year and something longer the year after that, that's just something we need to do. But you get to a point of diminishing returns where your closure is as long as it would be to reconstruct. So, I mean, where do you draw that line? It's going to get interesting.
Right. Dan, there seems to be a lot of hyperbole coming out about the airport. I'm just curious, like, what are we not asking? What questions or things that we as consumers, people who use the airport, I'm getting information from one side, I'm getting it from the other side. It all seems pretty heightened. Are we all asking the right questions, or are we missing some just basic fundamentals in this?
No, I think the right questions are being asked. I'm not sure the right answers are being heard necessarily, but we really are looking for cleaner, quieter aircraft at this airport and a better product. An aircraft that's newer and can get in here during some of our inclement weather conditions, things such as that. So I think the questions are being asked, and that just tends to be the future of aviation. Aircraft, like cars and everything else, are getting cleaner.
Yes.
But we need to get to that point. And right now we're sort of handcuffed a bit with the size aircraft that we can get in here currently.
Right.
So that's the future of aviation.
Okay, so we're asking the questions, we're getting the answers, and moving forward, it seems like it's a bit up in the air until after November. But tell me, the ALP has been submitted. Is there the new ALP talks about the noise reduction, it talks about the sustainability and all the great things at the airport. The old ALP did not, is that correct?
An ALP really doesn't get into those issues as far. However, it alludes to the fact that if you can meet a certain gauge of aircraft, you can start adding those aircraft to your fleet mix, which allows you to apply those community values right there.
Yeah. Yep. Well, when we came out of our member survey, I mean, I think to keep the messaging as simple as possible from our organization, safety first, safety. Sure. I was talking to Bill Tomsich earlier, and we had said he and I just are two, we could probably count 10 people who have been involved in the airport for 25 years. We sat in the first EA that we went through. I mean, there's been so many iterations. And in all the 25 years that I have been here, nobody's talking about more. We're actually talking about sustainability, about modernization. What is the scare there? I hear the other side talk about industrial tourism, and as the DMO, which is the Destination Management Organization for Aspen, that just flies in the face of what we're trying to accomplish. I don't think anybody wants 747s flying in here at all. So can you just talk a little bit about what you think the most important thing people should be paying attention to out at our airport, regardless of the ballot issues?
Sure. Well, for one, when it comes to industrial tourism, we have not seen any empirical evidence that shows that newer, cleaner, quieter, even larger aircraft is going to bring in more individuals. We currently have seats available on the smaller aircraft we have in here.
Right.
So,
and for everyone who comes in, somebody has to go out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. At least you hope so.
Yeah.
I mean,
at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not seeing that happening. So I'm not sure where the logic course is as far as larger aircraft will mean more people. That just doesn't seem to compute.
Right. I'd like to move past that potentially, because I think it's just clouding a really important infrastructure project that we need to have here in our community. So I just really want to thank you for coming in today. Talking Runway, we don't want to bore you all to death, because I'm sure, well, Dan's actually not boring. He's kind of funny, but not in this setting today. But I really want our viewers to know, where can they go to get information about the airport, from just a purely from the airport to the airport? Where can they go?
Absolutely. So if your viewers go into aspenairport.com, we do have some fact sheets on there, and we do have some information about the whole process that has taken place through the community vision process to where we think this will go in the future.
Our members were saying that they're not getting accurate information from either side. So I offer up your website, because you're nonpartisan.
Correct.
And a way for people to get nonpartisan information, just the facts. If you go to any of the other groups, you're getting just one side of the story. So I really do think it's important that we independently go out, get information, get ourselves educated, because this November's election is going to be really, really important. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you all for watching this episode of Aspen Affairs Election 2024, Informed and Empowered. I'm Debbie Braun, President and CEO of the Aspen Chamber Resort Association. You can watch this very episode and learn more about the local elections, and check on your voter registration online at www.aspenchamber.org/elections. Thanks, GrassRoots TV, for their support. Until next time, stay informed and make your voice count. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.